Hello, and thanks for joining us at Project Cargo Professionals. I'm your host, Luke King, and with Season 1 under my belt, I wanted to share some of the highlights so far. Before we get to that, a huge shout out and thank you to Varamar for being our very first sponsor. In just a few weeks and with only a handful of episodes, we've clocked up over 16,000 YouTube views and thousands more downloads on the audio platforms. If you want to be a sponsor and reach an engaged audience around the world, get in touch on LinkedIn. Anyway, let's get into it. I have to admit, my very first guest, Kevin O'Sullivan, is still one of my favourites. Outspoken, no corporate jargon, and totally authentic. I caught up with him in Dubai to get the inside story of how you buy a bit of Mammoet.
The idea was that they were going to change their model from having a foothold in each country with the general manager and a full team and equipment and yards and maintenance and sales and, you know, a lot of overheads and stress. And I think I mentioned the other day, the idea of that is to then springboard from that smaller maintaining or that self-sufficient business unit. The idea was if you're in the country and you've got a name for yourself and you've managed to do your marketing right, when there are bigger projects, you can springboard from that smaller branch with the big boys that are in the background. You know, your Dubai headquarter then can jump in with their sales efforts, jump in there with their sort of niche equipment, their SPMTs, their bigger cranes, their bigger, you know, jacking and skidding or whatever it is, the big boy stuff. And these projects are there. And the idea was if you are already in the country and you know these clients and they've worked with you on a smaller scale, they're much more likely to want to work with you on the bigger stuff, right? And that was the idea. Well, Mammoet sort of turned that on the head and went, yeah, but that's too risky. That's kind of too expensive. And actually, some of these business units, they're not making us any money, but they're continually asking for investment. You know, that crane is old now, we want a new crane, or our vehicles are needing to be replaced, or our building that we're in now needs refurbishing, or whatever it might be. But there's always continuous investment in that smaller business unit. And if these big projects are not being springboarded from, then that P&L is not really supporting the model anymore. And I'm not saying that was the case for South Africa, but maybe across the regions that was the case. You know, why are we doing it this way? Surely there's a better way of doing it. Those little business units you've got in Abu Dhabi and that one in South Africa, it's not worth the squeeze anymore, guys. So we want you to sell it, get it off our books, and we're going to re-strategize into this much bigger sort of niche model of working on the bigger, sexier stuff where we can get our big equipment in there without the overheads and the risk of the dramas that you're causing us at these lower levels. I got there in the February, and by the September, October, I'm like already being asked to find a buyer for the business. Yeah, it was a testing time actually, and not really what I'd bought into, and pretty perturbed by it all. But given the assurance from Mammoet at the time that, you know, this is for the good and benefit of the company overall. We like you and you don't need to worry about it. You know, we'd like you to select some of your good guys that you've got and we'll help them out. But ultimately, we need to let this business go to a strong partner in the country, because we don't want to let this link go in South Africa. There will be work for us in the future. Establishing a strong partner on the ground makes good sense to us without all the risk associated with the overhead. So fine as a partner, fine as a buyer. We're willing to negotiate. They can have our equipment, and let's sign like a cooperation and alliance agreement with this company, whoever it is, for the future. So yeah, race on 6 to 8 months. The buyer that we did find fell through, and it opened up an opportunity for me and the management team at the time. So after a couple of whiskeys one night, let's see if the bank will loan us some money and we'll do it on our own. So from this, you know, idiot 17-year-old who didn't have a clue what he was doing has now got an opportunity to borrow a large amount of money from the bank. You know, I just didn't believe it would happen. You know, this happens to, you know, the few and far between. But what an opportunity to land on my desk. I mean, to be honest, pretty good at what I do. I mean, I'm not singing my own trumpet or anything, but I felt like I was ready to have my own company now. I felt like I was good at it, but I'd not considered it. In fact, I remember who is now a shareholder, the operations manager at the time, who's now the operations director, Yaku, called me and said, well, why don't we just buy it ourselves? Why are we looking for a buyer? I was like,
Kevin O'Sullivan there. Now from Dubai to Florida. Sadly, I didn't meet him in person, but I did have an interesting chat with Agustin Harriague of Mitsubishi Power Americas, a shipper who told us the power market in the US was so busy, it's almost without precedent.
The US market is hot these days. The power generation market is super hot, right? So I would not say really because of the election and those election results, and I don't want to be political here, but I think it's something that we have seen starting even so before the election, right? But the market, the power generation, I think it's the current situation of the US market has no precedent, right? It's don't want to call it a boom, but it's so hot, right, that it's also challenging in a way because it changes the dynamics of the market. It will change the dynamics of how we see the power generation market and how we think about it and how we operate in that market over the next couple of years, over the next years. So basically, yeah, AI is keeping the topic on the headlines, right? You hear AI and power demand and so on. I think it's more, there are other drivers for that too, right? It's electrification, it's manufacturing, it's coal retirements as sources of energy. There's a mix of different things, and certainly AI and data centers is a huge driver for the US market right now.
Yeah.
We can't stand still. That's why I said to my team, we still have to provide the best solutions possible at the best cost possible, right? But because things can change pretty quickly. But this is a complete different market for what I've seen over the last, certainly 20 years in my career in power generation, but certainly over the last, especially since I came here to the US in the last 9 years, right? So customers want 24/7 capacity to the grid. They want to decarbonize, right? So there's a level of to face all this hot market and this exponential growth, getting into a different level of collaboration and communication with EPCs, with our customer, with the power generators, right? Between O&Ms, EPC, utilities, customers, there's a whole different level we're getting into. I think we're getting into a kind of a different age of the way we think and operate in this market.
And how are the recent changes in US trade policy affecting you? Huge disruption, huge changes going on. Are you seeing customers making changes to their supply chains already? And how's that affecting your business, your operations?
I think it's more of a matter of, we certainly keep a close eye on tariffs and how this situation evolves with tariffs. In my view, it's more about the uncertainty, right? How these tariffs being imposed and supply chain risk as a whole, right, globally, the uncertainty that drives is probably more damaging, right, than the causes of that uncertainty.
Yeah.
So we see a change, probably a slowdown into hydrogen type solutions, right? We need a path to clean energy, but we need energy now, and we need power now. Our customers are looking for capacity, right, and supply because they need power now. And they need power now with a path to clean energy.
Agustin Harriague of Mitsubishi Power Americas. Next up, I head to Greece to meet Elisabeth Cosmatos, CEO of Cosmatos Group and president of the Heavy Lift Group, our association partner. Now, logistics is not necessarily the male-dominated business it used to be. But Elisabeth tells us it wasn't that long ago that women in project cargo struggled to make themselves heard.
We have done significant progress as women, but there is still a lot of way ahead of us. So I would be lying if I'd say that this was, an easy task and an easy journey. It hasn't been. I have fought many battles to be here. Especially for the Greek culture, it's difficult to be a woman in this industry. I would say that it's important to don't give up, don't hide yourself, always have an opinion, despite the fact that when women have an opinion and they express it, you are either bossy, you are opinionated. So there's always something to be said. And that's a lesson that I learned from a quite young age. Back then I was fighting even greater battles for the specific issue of gender equality, or inequality, if we want to be accurate. Regardless of what you do as a woman, regardless if you choose to go right or if you choose to go left, there is always something to be said. Always. There is no right way to do things. So choosing just simple and everyday examples. You put a lot of energy at work, you're neglecting your family and your children. You put a lot of energy in your family and children, you're neglecting your work. You're too feminine, you shouldn't be too feminine. You have an opinion, it's too masculine. There's no way to keep everybody happy. So just, ladies, forget about it, do your own thing. And as we say in Greece, whoever likes us, and that's the end of it. We can live even if not everybody likes us. So.
Do you get the sense that Greece is better or worse, or do you think this is everywhere still?
No, I don't think that it's the same everywhere. Definitely, it's not eliminated from everywhere. I mean, it still exists. It's much better now in structure, politics, everything. But still, social perceptions and cultural norms are still quite back. I'm still facing that kind of things. It's not easy for a man in this industry to, listen, to do what a woman is telling him to do. So I can bring examples if you want.
Please.
It's not that far, ago. It was I remember the first windmill park that was going to be built, the first ever in North Macedonia. So the manufacturer was Siemens at that time. It was before the joint venture with Gamesa. So Siemens was building a windmill park in North Macedonia, and we as Cosmatos were working for a company named Bolchip at that time. Now it's DSV. As their local agents. So Siemens was a pretty tough player because they were very, very strict manuals of how to handle everything. There was an SOP for everything. I mean, even about the way you breathe next to their cargo, right? Very, very demanding. And it was also not the first windmill park to be built in North Macedonia, but it was also the first windmill park of Siemens, the first windmill parts of Siemens to be handled in Thessaloniki port. So the stevedores were not acquainted with that cargo. They didn't know how to actually handle it because there was also a specific way to enter into the nacelle and hook, and there was a procedure to that. So we were given huge piles of manuals that the stevedores were supposed to read and know how to do it. This is, of course, a no-brainer that it cannot go like that. So I had to sit, read, select what to choose from the whole lot, to choose the main points that were very important for the operation, translate them to Greek, prepare the presentation, and teach the stevedores how to do the job. So I did all the way a part of teaching, a part of presenting the presentation that I actually made, because there was no way that there were going to be like 20, 30 stevedores sitting down and listening to me telling them what to do and how to do it. And that's just a typical example, because even now, providers, for example, trackers, old-fashioned style, macho, industry players, they still prefer that the words are given to them by a man instead of a woman. And yeah, it happens. I can live with it. I mean, at the end of the day, I want the job to be done.
That was Elisabeth Cosmatos. Now, before I go, I want to tell you about a new series I'm recording with Breakbulk to celebrate their upcoming 35th anniversary of Breakbulk Americas. I'm just back from the US, where I've been recording the series we're calling Voices of Breakbulk Americas. And here's a preview of my chat with Jake Swanson of DHL Industrial Projects, who tells Project Cargo professionals why he's so enthusiastic about the US market.
And we're working with customers that 5 years ago we never would have imagined, right? I mean, companies like Meta or Microsoft, where you would think those aren't industrial project type of customers. New things that weren't around years ago. Last week I was in Austin talking with Amazon and with a few others, and they're growing when it comes to these types of projects, and so it's interesting.
Stay tuned for more episodes with Project Cargo experts from around the world, and make sure you subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And one more thing, if you're a company in project logistics looking to raise your profile through podcasting, PR, or video content, I can help. Just message me on LinkedIn to find out more. I look forward to meeting at Breakbulk Americas. See you soon.